everybody. So nice. Somebody was saying something there?
Is there anything we need to do here other than...
No, you can sit and watch and enjoy if you want. This is kind of an intro thing, and if it works out, I see I'd have to upgrade to a professional account to get longer, and we can actually do proper workshops. So I wanted to see what you think. You know, I might be absolutely useless on this. I don't know. Okay, so I just want to show you here. I'll take this off. I'm practically living in this Harper cardigan. I need to make some more. I think when those new fabrics come in, I'm making it. So I measured myself. Typical, I forgot my measuring tape. Hang on, I'll go get. Okay, a lot of you were asking about measuring yourself. And on the pattern, on the Molly top pattern, I just have it here. I printed them all out. I don't normally print these, but I thought, if we're going to be doing this. The sizes, it was coming out, my size is coming out between a 14 and a 16. Now, I should have trusted my instincts. Because with Sew Over It, I tend to go down one size. I've small shoulders, and I've normally if I measure myself here, up here, I'm 38 there. Now, if you're measuring your bust, your tape should be straight at the back, all the way across the fullest part of your bust. If you're not used to doing this, do it in a mirror and turn sideways and actually move the tape to the fullest part of your bust. And then I'm 42 there. Really a 42 bust according to their pattern should be between a 16 and 18. And this is a 16. I think it's too big on me. What do you think?
But you're a 30. So what size? Would you not have gone with your bust size?
If I went with my bust size, according to this, a 43, size 42, I should have gone for the size 18. Which would make it even bigger. Did you
not say you were 38 in the bust there?
No, my upper bust is a 38. So I normally go by my upper bust size and then maybe give it a bit more room on the side or do a full bust adjustment. Because I have narrow shoulders and I'm a busty on the top and I don't have a tiny waist. So I tend to do the smaller size. And I should have gone with my instinct. So what I'll say is there is a good bit of ease in this top. So 38 here, easily, and then 42 I am here. So I would say if you're going to be measuring, if there's a big difference between your upper bust and your full bust, I would go with your upper bust because you can see what's happened here. It's quite big. I think if it was in sweatshirt fabric, it'd be okay. But lighter jersey, I'm not 100% happy with it. It depends. If you want it like this kind of loose fit, go for it. But I think I'd like the next one to be the smaller fit. So I'm going to go down, which I've done. Here's my pattern. So the pattern consists of front and a back, front and a back. See the way it's got that grown-on sleeve? It's brilliant, isn't it? The way you don't have to set in a sleeve. It's really, really handy. And then sleeve. So the sleeve is actually quite shorter. If you wanted to, you could do this without the sleeve and you just turn up the cuff and it's a t-shirt. Very quick t-shirt. And then you have the neckband. Now, with Sew Over It patterns, I find the neckband, can you see that? It's quite loose. Now, if I go down a size, it'll be tighter on me. So it'll pull the neckband in, but I'm actually going to take a little piece off that pattern size. I always find the Sew Over It pattern, neckband patterns are a little bit loose and they could be a bit smaller. Usually you measure your neckband, the hole, and then take 20% off. And that's the length that your neckband should be. Now, there we go. So, I need to keep switching between the cameras. So there I am. Isn't Fintan great for doing this? Doing all these things for me.
And the deliveries as well.
I know! I was like, oh, will I send these with Julian? And he was like, oh, I need to get out of the house. Give us them. It was brilliant. I was delighted.
Brilliant. Great.
Anne, are you there? Did you get yours off Marion?
I'm here. I'm on my son's laptop, so I can't figure out the camera.
Don't worry. Don't be lying. You're sitting in your pajamas and don't want anybody to know. Okay, so I did this in a stripe. But if you're an absolute beginner, go for a plain cotton or something with a busy pattern. So, I'm just getting some fabric. Of course, it all falls on top of me. So, like, there's one of our new ones. There's some more coming in. That's a plain cotton jersey. It's an organic cotton. So something like that, you're not going to have to do any pattern matching. The same with, if you get, what I mean by a busy pattern is something like this. These are cotton jerseys. And you won't pattern match that. So I would go for something like that. If you want to go for pattern, but you don't want it to be too crazy, too difficult on yourself. But stripes.
Amory, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Just come back to the sizing, right? So, like for me, I'm measuring 37 or maybe 37 and a half in the bust.
Yeah.
And the finish size for the 12 is 36 and a half. But I don't think I would like it. I think I'd like a little bit of room in it.
Yeah.
But then when I go to the 14, it's very big in the waist and the hips for me.
Yeah.
But I wonder if I were to cut the size 12 along the seam, the shoulder, along the shoulder. If I was to cut the 12 along the shoulder and the arm opening, and then when I come across, if I was to go into the 14,
you could do that.
And then I could go back
from
to the 12
underneath
for the waist
arm,
and the hips.
The line underneath the arm, when it goes down, it's just slightly wider. It's actually on the same line here. But
it is. There's not much in it.
Yeah, there's not
and
much
then
in it.
With the notches, Anne-Marie, would that be the waist? Do you know when you look at the pattern there?
Yeah, it's the waist.
Would that be the waist with the notches?
Yeah, but you know what? Don't worry about your notches if you have stripes, because you're working on matching your stripes rather than your notches. Right. So I'm going to show you how to actually
No, what I was wondering, the only reason I was asking that is if I wanted to grade back, because that will be big in the waist and hip. If I go to 14, it'll be too big in the waist and the hips for me. But if I could grade back in again, maybe.
Yeah. So what measurement were you on the bust?
Well, I'm 37 and a half inches.
Okay.
So size 12 is about it. It'd be an inch smaller.
Yeah.
Which I don't know.
Well, see, I'm measuring on my full bust. I'm measuring 41. Was I 41?
That's my full bust now, 37.
Yeah. But I'm like, this is a 16, and this is 40 and a half on the full bust. Look at it. That should be a half an inch smaller than my full bust. So I think there's a lot of room in it.
Yeah.
I'd go probably the 12, and you might have to take it in.
For the whole thing?
I'd say the 12 will be okay on you, because, like, look at this. This is the 16, and I'm a 41, depends on that time of the month, 42 bust. Now, I have to say, I think it's too long for me. I'm going to take this up.
Yeah.
I feel I'm only 5'2", so that'll give you an idea, and I'm going to take it up an inch. I'm just going to show you how I do that on the pattern. But I think they do measure quite big. Let me just show you quickly how to do that on the pattern. There's a few things you have to do to your pattern. If you're going to do stripes, there's a few tricks you have to do. But the big thing here now, I'm going to take it up an inch. See at the bottom of this pattern. I'm using a Sharpie so you can see it. I'll just take my tape and literally I'm going to go along the edge of it and mark an inch. Now probably, if you guys weren't watching, I'd eyeball this. You know me, for cheating. So along there and then along that curve. And you do that for both sides. I was on that talk this morning at the IPS. She was saying in Ireland there's 3 measurements. Centimetre, so metric, imperial and eyeball. We always do that, don't we? Sure, just it'll be grand. It's like measuring something out. So I'm going to cut those up. Obviously not use my good scissors, use my paper scissors. Fintan has now learned, after several roars from me, not that scissors! And he asks. Now, so you can take those up. I've already actually cut this smaller. Now you'll see on this, I have a line on my, can you see this line here? Across the bust, Can you see that? And I've done, this is how I pattern match. A lot of people do it differently, but this is how I pattern match stripes. I find a point at some stage down here. Now I did this 9 inches down. That's because I had a 9-inch ruler. Oh, it's a smaller. Sorry, I cut my pattern down. So just say like it's a certain amount down, 9 inches, and I drew a line perpendicular to the seam or the fold line, straight across here, and I did it on this at the same point on the other pattern piece. Now, obviously you can't measure from the top here at the neck. See the way it's scooped out? But it will be the same point if you put your sleeves together, because this is where you're going to be. You want your pattern to match along the edge. Do you get that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to line those up, and I put a little mark where they line up together. One mark there, and just move it along. And I have a mark down here. And I literally, all I did was draw a line. Now, if you can see, can you see the pattern match?
Yeah.
There's my seam.
Yeah, perfect.
Well, I wouldn't say perfect, but a man on a flying horse wouldn't notice, so you'd be all right. So once you have this line done, then it helps you when you're actually cutting it out. If you do this part right first, it makes everything else so much easier. So the next step is to get your fabric. I'm just going to... That should be changed cameras. There we go. So the next step is to get your fabric. It's already pre-washed, and I learned this trick from one of the ladies at the Dublin Sewing Meetup. She puts all her jersey fabric in the dryer, and that way it will kind of preempt any accidents by putting things in the dryer. So that means it's pre-shrunk in the dryer, so it'll never shrink again on you. So I'm matching up my stripes now. See the way the bottom of that, can you see the wrinkles? See the way it's not really lying flat? You can probably see it better on this side. Can you see those little wrinkles? It's not flat across the bottom. That's because it's not lined up. Now, do you know, I might do this on it. If I get a bit of cotton, you'll see it better. Because it's hard to see on the camera there. So if I put selvage to selvage, and you hold it up straight. I think I went through this in a class. Now, my selvages are lined up perfectly, but look at the bottom. See the way it's all wrinkly? That means the warp and weft, it's not lined up properly. Yeah. So you just move your fingers along until it starts to, see now it's all starting to level out there. When it falls correctly, then you know you've got it right. Can you see that now? It's all straight along the bottom?
Yeah.
So that's basically what you want to do with your jersey. You can't really, it's very hard to see on the camera here with this jersey. Just keep an eye on the time. So, have I got a straight line?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got a straight line there. So next step is I'm going to take these stripes and I'm going to match them. So I know this seems like horribly tedious work, but basically what you do is you line up those stripes, and jersey curls like mad. But by doing this, you can use clips or you can do pins. I know we're doing pinning and stuff before we even cut things out, but by doing this, your stripes will match because they will be in the same position on both sides of your fabric. I should have done a Mary Fitzgerald and had here's one I made earlier. So see how I'm doing that. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm matching those up. Again, you don't want this headache. Don't pick stripy fabric. And the smaller the stripe, the harder it is to do. And I'm doing it with every one. Now, the one I put on, is that straight? Make sure it is straight. Yeah. just making sure it's straight down here. So, haven't done them all, but this is just for the purposes of showing you guys. So we've flattened all that out. Make sure you have no wrinkles in it. What you can do is actually iron your jersey so that it stays nice and flat. So we take our pattern piece that I've left over here. Now, turn my machine over a tiny little bit so you can see it there. Now, so this is to go on the fold. And see our line now? I'm going to put that line at the bottom of these double stripes. So no matter where it is on this fabric, if it was up here, be at the bottom of the double stripes, or if it's down below. This is slightly smaller again, so I'm just going to bring it down. Okay. Actually, I'm going to put it at the top because it fits better in the fabric. I'm just trying to be economical with my fabric. So I'm lining up the same point, and I'll have to do that with my other side to make sure they both line up. So I'm lining that up with the top there and with the top there. So you have two options here for cutting out. And again with the side. You can use the scissors or you can use a rotary cutter. Would you like me to show you both?
Don't mind.
You don't mind. Who uses a scissors? Anybody? Have we got scissors or rotary cutter, gang?
Rotary cutter.
Rotary cutter?
Rotary cutter.
Yeah.
Rotary cutter, yeah.
Do you know what? I kind of switch between the two of them. And the reason for that is I use the long quilting rulers. It is much quicker to use a rotary cutter for this, so I might just do that. But I want to also show you how to do it on the single fold. So I'm going to cut this one out with the rotary cutter for speed. Mind your fingers, these guys are sharp. I have an A2 cutting mat underneath here.
Will you switch your camera?
Oh,
Camera?
sorry, thought I had.
No worries,
There we
thanks.
go. Thank you.
So those are like, you have it full, so you cut the two of them at the same time.
Yeah, so this is on the fold. I'm going to show you how to do it on the single. If you're a bit scared with the stripes, you can do it on the single. And it's also more economical with your fabric to do it on the single fold. Or on the single, not on the fold. The 28mm rotary cutters are better for small curves.
If you do it on the single, you'll have a seam down the middle, will you?
No, I'll show you how to do it without having a seam. That's what I did
okay.
for this one. I did this one totally on the single.
Oh.
And it leaves me enough fabric, you see. Because this is done on the fold, you end up with like a big chunk of fabric.
Yeah.
You know? And it might be better. I think my blade is
A quick question on the rotary cutters. I only have 145mm. Does it make a difference, or is it better?
No, I
like,
used
for
the 45 there. It's fine. It's the only difference is that it's for curves. If you're doing a really tight neckline.
Got it.
Like, so there's one layer cut. Now, don't forget your notches. So I'm putting a notch here, but to be honest, unless when you're doing your stripes, I don't really use the notches. Notch on the shoulder. The notch on the sleeve is important so you get it in the right spot when you're putting your sleeves on. Okay, and obviously don't put a notch in your seam that's there. Now I always clip or pin my pattern piece, but basically there's one. Done. So I always pin those together so I know which bit's which. You don't have a big pile of stripy fabric going, what's that? Can't remember. Is that front or back? Right. I'm going to show you how to do it on the single fold. Oh, please don't run out of time, Zoom. Now, what you do is you have it on the single. Lay it out there nice and flat. flat as you can get it. And we're using our line. Now, this is where you'll need chalk or something like that to mark it. So, here's our pattern. On the first side, we're going like this. Remember, I did do the top. Wasn't it the top of the double line?
Yeah.
Yep. So, I'm bringing it all the way up to the top of a double line. I'll go to this one. So, there's my line there. Now, I actually folded that over so that I can see it on both sides when I was marking it. Now, this is where you'll need either chalk or a chalk wheel. These chalk wheels are great because they've got kind of little serrated teeth. Give them a little shake. And she spills chalk everywhere.
A message just popped up on mine that you no longer have a time limit. Just
oh,
might
brilliant!
take a bit of pressure off you.
Right, get the drinks out. We're here all night, so.
Just might take some pressure off you, that's all.
Oh, good. Breathe. They do that every so often. I think it's to get you to pay up, but we'll see what happens. Okay,
like a Brucey bonus.
Yeah, like a Brucey bonus. I haven't heard that in a while. So we don't have to worry too much about this being straight, but you can see they're perpendicular. So you know that's going to be nice and straight there. Once this line across here matches with your stripes, this is yarn dyed jersey. Now, the difference between yarn dyed and printed is if it's printed, you can't use your stripes as a reference guide because the print might be wobbly. But because it's yarn dyed, you know it's going to be straight across. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not just throwing loads of info at you and you'll be like, Jesus. What is she going on about? Okay, so I'm going to go around this. I've ordered more of these if anybody wants them. Chalk, I find, you can use chalk, but it pulls the jersey and you don't want it to do that. You want it to stay as flat as possible. I'm just moving that over for a second. I need to make myself some pants.
Anne-Marie, if you did the line down the middle and then just flipped it over and made sure you had it straight, would that work rather than having to go around the whole outside?
Oh no, I'm going around the outside because I'm going to cut it like that on the outside.
Oh, I see what you're at, yeah.
That's why I'm marking it, because I'm going to cut it. Because I'm afraid of it moving with pins and stuff. That's why I'm using the chalk. A lot of people do this, mark and then cut. My mum does that. A lot of the time, though, she doesn't use a pattern. She just draws it out on the thing. She's in the middle of making her, because it's lockdown. She's like, oh, I need trousers and tops. So I gave her a pile of stuff. She picked it all out. Came back, rang me. I have no measuring tape. Do you have a magic one that makes me skinnier? Yeah. Wouldn't it be nice? Nah, I like being me. Okay. Right.
So sorry, one question, Henry.
Yeah.
Because first time I'm doing the reason why you're drawing it with the chalk is because you're going to cut it with the scissors.
Yeah, I'm going to cut it with the scissors because I'm going to move it now. Like you could cut it with the rotary cutter, but I just want to show you both ways.
Oh yeah, that's fine. I just needed to. I was just drinking. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to move this, and we should. It's very hard. It's hard. Can you see it there? It's tricky to see there, but I'm moving it on now, making it nice and flat. And some ways this is easier than spending all that time trying to get your fabric, lined up perfectly. Doing it on a single. Plus, you get it's a way of getting more out of your fabric. Now, I'm lining that up here with my neckline, and then I'm looking at my stripe. So the top of my pink double stripe. Just put that down there, just to hold it. Make sure, it's not lined up there. It's gone too far over my center line. There we go. Yeah, it's lined up there. So I'm going to mark that again. I've even tried kids' chalk, and I know kids' chalk is softer, but it still pulls at the jersey. If you don't have one of these, you can just cut around your actual pattern, but it's just if you're doing it on the single to make sure it's all correct. I'm not running out of chalk. You can turn it upside down to see if the chalk is starting to run out. Yeah, so we can take that off. And then I can cut. When you're cutting now, I know there's a few people on here who aren't in our classes and a few of you who are more advanced, but I'm just going to make these suggestions as I go along because there are some beginners. So when you're cutting, when you're using a dressmaking scissors, it's more flat along here. So keep your blade on your tabletop surface. And if you keep your fabric to the right of your blade, I'm right-handed, so I use a right-handed scissors, the fabric will sit in here and be as close as possible to the cutting blades. Especially with jersey. I know, Mairead, jersey is your nemesis. So jersey...
We're going to banish that after this project.
Definitely. Definitely. So we do long strokes here. I think maybe that's where a rotary cutter might be good for you, Mairead. So long strokes, taking our time, try not to move it around too much. So there's a difference here with cutting with a rotary blade and cutting with a scissors. So do you see how I did my curve? Start your curve with your blade open, and then as you go around the curve and you cut, you turn and do it in one sweep. That literally just takes practice. No, I should be doing this the other way around. I'm going to do it from the other side. This is the back, so the neckline is less scooped on the back. And this is where being able to walk around your table is handy. Obviously I can't because the camera and the laptop and everything is there. But if you do this on the kitchen table, move your kitchen table to the middle of the floor and then walk around it. But because the chalk is on it, I don't have to worry too much. I can move it around and be able to see where I'm going, where I'm meant to be cutting. But if the paper is attached, you won't be able to do that. And this should be slightly shorter. I'm going to sew this with my sewing machine, not with the overlocker. I did this one with the overlocker because I was trying to do it really fast. But most people on here, I think, have just a sewing machine, so I'm just going to go with the sewing machine. So there we go. That's it. Cut out. They look fairly horizontal. Let's hope it worked out well. So that's the front and back. And you'll see the difference of how much fabric you save by doing it on the single. Marianne, you'll be doing outfits for your girls just like me. I save any bits. So
yeah,
on the single you end up with this big giant piece, but if you do it on the double, you end up with two skinny bits.
okay.
See that?
Yeah.
So when you're like, you can cut your sleeves out of one of those and then you have the other one, but for, you know, if you're trying to save fabric and use it.
But Anne-Marie, can you do that on any pattern? Any
pattern at all. And if you find it too difficult to do the flipping over thing, just get some tracing paper. Actually, do you remember you've all keep asking me for the meter long rolls of tracing paper? I found them in another supplier finally. And there's 40 rolls arriving next week. So tracing paper and you trace it out, you know, on the double, and that way you have the pattern as a one whole piece.
Okay, great, thanks.
So, we need to do the same pattern matching thing again with the sleeves. You don't have to do it with the neckline. Can you see on my neckline here? I'll switch back. See the way I've done? Oh look, there's a thread. Yeah. There's always a thread somewhere. But you see the neckline? I did the sleeve. I did it the opposite way, and you'll see the sleeves. See the way they go? Isn't it really cool the way it does that? That's just the pattern, the way it does it. I wouldn't suggest trying to do it so that they line up. Your heart will be absolutely broken. So same way here. See, I've got that line, and you pick this. So you've only got one sleeve, so it doesn't matter. You're not doing the same point. So we're going to pick the point, the top of our stripe. We're going to stay the top of the stripe like we did before. I'm cutting these on the single, because if you put one on top of each other, the bottom one might shift, and that will just be disastrous because they'll be all over the place. Because you want
where you start the sleeve in the same place, is that right?
So what I'll show you, can you see? Hang on. Turn it around. Can you see that?
Yeah.
That is my sleeve, because I have this line going across here. So each edge of this sleeve has the same stripe at the same point. So then when I go to match it up all the way around my sleeve, you can't tell where the seam is. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. But does it matter? Do you see the top of the sleeve? Does it matter?
Like here.
Yeah, you see where it attach the shoulders.
Oh, no, that doesn't matter. It just, it does it on, I don't know how it did it, but it's because I had the same point here. It becomes the same point here and here. It just does it. Yeah. Once you match that side one, the rest of it falls into place. This seems to be a lesson in pattern matching, but it's one of those things you have to do. I think you just have to bite the bullet and match those patterns. Sure, I told you all about that mask I made Alva, and then she told me, she put it on and said, "Mammy, the unicorns are upside down." I didn't do pattern matching on Alva's thing. Now, where's my rotary cutter?
And are you doing them sleeves on the single, Anne-Marie?
On the single again, because otherwise it might shift underneath. Do you know? And
do you have to flip the pattern over when you cut the second seam?
Yes, you do.
I forgot to do that one time.
It's okay.
So I had one sleeve right, and the other sleeve was inside out.
That was on the Great British Sewing Bee, and they were doing jackets, and jacket sleeves are done so the right and left are very different. This one isn't too different, though. If you look at the shape of it, it's basically the same shape. I think it nearly is. I don't think it really mattered if you did do it the wrong way.
My sleeve, it did matter.
Oh, okay. What, was this a different pattern?
It wasn't that pattern, no. It was,
okay.
It was a different pattern.
I'm not going to bother cutting my notches here because I want to match my stripes, not my notches. So there's one. Try not to move these around too much because the edges curl up the more they get moved. If you literally cut this and sew this on the same day, you'll get less curling on the edges. Now, we may have saved enough now for a little doona for Alva.
Plastic.
Yeah. Although she's very fussy. Grain line on this, yeah. And you know what? If you don't get it on the grain, you'll just end up with a twisted top. I got a pair of Christmas jammies. Mum got them for me. It's like a tradition, Mum buying her Christmas jammies. I'm 40 and my mother still buys my Christmas jammies. But anyway. Yeah, so my Christmas jammies, wore them. And I woke up about 10 times in the night going, oh my God, they were all strangling me. Because they weren't cut on the grain. And of course in my head I'm going, bloody pennies. Not cut on the grain. Anyway. Right. Oh, I didn't flip it over. Look what I did.
No, see, I think that's very hard to remember.
It is actually, and I didn't do it, but this pattern is basically the same.
So hard.
It's not the end of the world.
They don't matter, no.
No, it's basically the same, but when the sleeve head is a different shape.
Yeah.
Now, please remember, if you're using a rotary cutter, always close it when you're finished. Because if you don't, you'll go to pick it up and you'll catch your hand, and it's so painful. So if you look at it there,
so Anne-Marie,
that's what I have left. I still have to do my neckband. It's a good chunk left.
Anne-Marie, if you're not using stripes, can you cut the sleeve with doubling it over?
Yes.
So you really only did it singly.
Let me see how this. No, not with this pattern, because the bottom is a curve, and the top is a curve, so it won't work. So that's how the pattern comes. It's not an on the fold pattern. You know, like some of them are on the fold.
Cut your sleeves out singly.
You mean putting the sandwich and two of them together and cut two at the same time?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do that if it's not a stripe. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's if it's a stripe, it might shift underneath, and then it'll be just, tricky to get them right. Okay, this bit is probably the bit that'll drive you bonkers, Mairead. It's the neckband. So here is our neckband strip. And this is how I do them. Now, you don't have to do it like this. You can just cut it regularly. So I'm doing it like on my neckband here. See the way the stripes are going up. You can do it the other way if you wanted. But I kind of like that. I like that look.
I think so.
I think it looks nice.
Yeah.
So that means I have to go this direction on it. So I'm going to find a nice long bit.
Do you think that neckband's too long, Anne-Marie? What do you recommend taking off it?
Yeah, I feel like it is. I feel like this is quite big on me. But if I wanted as a loose one, see how big that is on the neck there?
Yeah.
Like, even if I took an inch off that more, it would just pull it in a little bit more, even if it's just sat like that. If I put it on my shoulders there, that's easily an inch. And I found that with a few sew over it patterns. That's what they're like. Now, this is 30 something inches long. Now, so I want to make sure this is perpendicular. So they've given you a little grain line here. Can you see that? There's a little grain line. So we're ignoring that for the moment, because if you were going with the grain line, it should be this way. But we're ignoring that because we want it to be, we're going cross grain. And I'm going to pick the same point, both sides of that line, so I know my stripe is right. I'm going to pin this because of the stretch in it. It's just going to start springing back at me and drive me bonkers. So if you don't have one of these giant rulers, this is the way to do it. If you do have one of these rulers, you literally just measure this, and it's, 3 inches wide by 25. We're going to go less. I'm going to make it slightly smaller. So I'm going to go by 25. So if you have one of these rulers, just lay it down and you just cut it, and then you move it along. But if you don't have one, this is the way you have to do it. Pin it out. And I know you're putting holes in jersey, and you shouldn't be doing this. You should be using clips. As long as those holes are inside a seam, it'll be fine. So that's holding that all the way along. Nice and flat, loads of pins. Now, so what I'm going to do then is I'm going to cut this very carefully. And that's going to hold it there. So I'm showing you a few different cutting techniques here. Generally, this is the technique that I use for cutting things. It's the quickest way. Just be careful with it. I have to see the way I have to roll this back. Because it's pinned, it's not going to go anywhere. Now, you could use your rotary cutter. And you roll it back. But because it's because your fingers are very close to it, if you're a beginner, I wouldn't recommend doing this because it's very easy for it to slip while your fingers are that close to a rotary blade. It really, really hurts. So I just got to cut it slightly shorter there. Okay, don't forget your notches. So this one I'm doing is a 14. 14. That's the back. 14. We'll probably get this done. Do we have enough time, guys? Have you guys want to see me finish the top today?
Well, we're not going anywhere, Anne-Marie.
The house can stay dirty. Right, at this point, I wouldn't, at this point is where I would pin it. Don't put this in a pile. See the way it's nice and flat? Look at it, it's starting to curl like mad already. So what you need to do is bring it over and get your notches straight off. There's your center notch. Now, you see that center notch there?
Yeah.
If I match the center notch, my stripes aren't matched. Now, you probably won't see it because it's in the inside, but oh, that would really annoy me. So I'm going to match them. And this is what I do. I pin my band. So over it says to pin it, to do this bit. That should be, apologies, I should sew this first. I'm going to actually just quickly sew this. I'm using these needles. They're stretch needles. Anything with stretch, can you see those? Stretch needles. Anything with stretch and that has elastic. Stretch needle is perfect. I'll move this around so you can see me at the same time. Isn't this great, this thing Fintan made? So you can see me in a minute. He comes in handy. Okay, 5/8 of a seam allowance. I'm using a zigzag stitch, so I'm going to go for my lightning bolt stitch, and I'm going to make it longer and wider than it says to do it on it, because I find it's a little bit short.
So, Anne-Marie, what stitch length have you got it at?
So my machine, it's 2 and 3. Now, if you don't have a stitch that looks like a lightning bolt, this one here is the lightning bolt stitch. If you don't have this is a jersey stitch. On my machine, it comes up as 1 and 1.5, and it's a tiny little stitch. So I just make it slightly bigger. You can't see the screen because it's an LCD. Okay. But if you don't have that, just a regular zigzag at 1.5 by 1.5 is fine. Okay. So if you don't have that,
I have like, it's like a lightning bolt, and then it has a little kind of semicircle at the end.
I'm not sure why it has a semicircle. That might be to do with, does have automatic cut, switch off or something, automatic cut off at the end. But yeah, if it looks like a lightning bolt, anyway. Give it a go, and it's a bit of scrap fabric.
Yeah. Sorry, and the stitch length?
Stitch length, 1.5 by 1.5 if it's a zigzag. That's what's on your machine, Marlena.
Yeah. Thank you.
So here what I'm doing is I'm folding these two together. So this is wrong sides together. So I'm basically making the neckband. Just pin that in. And I'm going to go around it and match my stripes. Now there's a few ladies on here who aren't actually in our class. They're from Instagram. Hello. If you want to introduce yourselves.
Hey, how are you? Thanks for providing this. It's actually really interesting. My name's Karen, by the way.
Hi,
I'm
Karen.
loving it.
You probably see
Karen.
It's weird to finally get to meet people who you chat to on Instagram and everything. It's great.
You run classes remotely, do you?
No, this is the first time we've done a remote class. This is
okay.
Yeah, we're normally in the community centre, and there's 2 classes, actually 3 now, Monday morning, Thursday evening, and a Friday evening, but we haven't had those. So.
Well, you wouldn't think it was your first time, so A+.
Hey! Okay. You'll get to know me. I could talk for Ireland. I tried to on the news. It didn't do anything. They didn't actually do anything. It didn't help. But I didn't think it would, to be honest.
And Marie, I think someone posted a question on the chat because they say that their microphone is not working.
Their microphone?
Jersey needle those needles are the Jersey needle? I think that's the question.
Okay, Mairead, the Jersey needles, I'll put them up here. Let's go back to here. Can you see that? Oh, yeah, I'm going to have to put it up here. They're the stretch needles. Can you see those? Yeah. So they're the stretch needles. Jersey needles and ballpoint needles. Ballpoint is if there's no elastic in it. And that's for if you're using something so it goes in between each of the little knitted parts. Stretch, you need it. It's a longer shaft and it's got kind of a sharper point and a smaller eye. There's so many details with these things. But it's also, these are 75 weight, so that's good for this jersey. If you're using a ponte, which is thicker, you need something heavier. Also, these are Schmetz needles. They're colour-coded. You don't need to be able to see that tiny writing. Now, my eyesight's not great, but seeing that tiny writing is a nightmare. My husband was like, what do you mean there's writing on those? You need a microscope. So these are colour-coded, and the diagram is on the website, so you can figure out. If you find a random needle, you can figure out what it is if you're like myself and you can't see the thing.
So what's the difference between the stretch and the jersey? I'm confused.
Okay, jersey needles depends on the brand really. Jersey needles are usually ballpoint needles, and that literally means it's slightly blunt at the end. Stretch needles are for something that has elastic in it, and you especially need them when you're doing like legging fabric. So that's the main difference. It's just a little bit sharp.
My stretch needle that I had was actually a double needle. What's the difference with that one?
A double needle. We'll get one from over here. The twin needle. And you use the twin needle for your hems. Now, I'm very lazy. You all know that. I take the cheater's option with everything. It basically, I just do a zigzag. If you don't want to do it a zigzag and you want it to look like something from a shop, this is what you use. There are settings on your machine. You need to get the manual out so that your machine knows you're using a twin needle. But you basically need to have 2 spools of thread. And there's a trick to that. You put a little cup beside your... so when you're over here at your machine, you have one threaded through. You put a cup down here with your other spool of thread and you bring it up and thread it as normal. If you put a little safety pin with the head of it... I think I'm going to have to turn on the lights in here. It's starting to get a bit dark. There's my light. That's a bit better. So the safety pin like that, and if you tape it to there and use that to thread through the little eyelet. That basically takes, instead of using, one of those cone stands if you have big cones, and then you use that, you thread the two at the same time. So
you couldn't do the whole thing with that needle. You'd need a single stretch.
For any kind of finishing, for a neckline, for cuffs. But you can see in my cuff. Ooh, can you see that? I just did a zigzag.
Okay.
And it's grand. The only thing I find with these ones, the Schmetz ones never do. The other brands skip stitches. I don't know. They're meant to be the best needles. That's why I stocked them. So and they are a bit more expensive, but like a $5.50. But then again, if you want to get a cover stitch machine that just has that job, it's $2,000. A little bit cheaper. So I'm going to just go turn on the big light because it's getting a bit dark in here. Now, so there's our neckband done. That's ready to go and attach when we're at the stage for it to go. This is our leftover fabric. Quite a big chunk there, so you could get like a kid's t-shirt or something out of that. This is the thing with pattern matching and stripes.
How much fabric did you have there, Anne-Marie?
1.6 meters.
Okay, right.
Yeah, see, that's what you need if you're doing it on, for the length, if you're doing them on the fold. And you do actually need that. And the reason for that is, see this bit. If you didn't have that, you could fit them side by side and it'd be fine. So, let me get that out of the way. Get my pieces out. So, right sides together. That's the inside. That's the outside. If you're finding it tricky to see it, get a bit of sellotape or masking tape and you could write on it Oh, there's somebody in the waiting room. Somebody just arrived. Sorry, Michelle, didn't know you were here. So right sides together. So if you get a bit stuck and you don't know which bit's which, bit of sellotape on the outside. It's good for linen as well. When you're sewing any linen, because linen has the same right side and wrong side. And then you could do
does it have to do with the fabric or
that's to do with your pattern pieces and the shapes.
Okay. The shapes, not the fabric itself. Okay.
Yeah, the shapes of the pattern pieces, because it's like sewing is just Lego with fabric and a machine. That's all it is, and then just trying to put it all together. So here we go. So what we're going to do is, you don't do your side seams with this pattern yet. It's like a raglan. So the first thing you do is you do your shoulders. So I'm going to, here's my little clips. I'm just going to use pins just because they're handy. Just pin my shoulders. Now, if you can use your overlocker for this. I know you have one, Anne.
Yeah.
That was really like, yeah, guilty, yeah. I know.
I'm not very confident on an overlocker. I'm always afraid of cutting too much off.
Well, do you know what? With this one, if you do use your overlocker, the seam allowance is 5/8 of an inch, whereas
Right.
the overlocker will take off 1/2 an inch. So
Okay.
that's just what to keep in mind when you're doing it. So do one side, pin the other side.
Is that always the case with an overlocker, that it's a 1/2 inch seam allowance?
Yeah. I've never seen ones that the seam allowance is different, and I think it's because a lot of the time what you do is you overlock your seams and then you sew it together for any wovens. Like, you don't have to overlock to finish a seam on a jersey.
Yeah.
I always end up, I zigzag them on the machine first and then I overlock them because I don't trust myself with the overlocker.
Really? God, that's like 10
I know.
times the work.
That's like making 2 t-shirts.
Yeah.
But I can't bring myself to go straight to the overlocker.
Same.
Well, this one.
Yeah.
Oh no, you can see me.
And then I like to fit it on to make sure about the size before I commit to the overlocker.
There's a lot of unpicking with an overlocker. Now, trick with jersey is do not pull it. Do not force it through the machine. Let your machine do its job. So I'm not pulling on it. If you were using there is a trick to do it with a straight stitch. If you don't want to use a zigzag, you can use a slightly longer stitch and you pull it slightly. My mother does this because that's what they did in the industry, because it's really quick. Before industrial overlockers, like she started in the late 60s. So, but it takes a lot of practice to be able to do that, to be honest.
So you're starting with the shoulder and then kind of going down. Okay. Trying to figure out which part are you sewing now.
I'm just doing the shoulders.
Okay.
That's the first bit, is your shoulder.
Anne-Marie, do you some patterns will tell you to stabilise the shoulders?
Yeah.
You don't do that with this, no?
I'd have to read the instructions now.
I know. It's whatever you do yourself.
I don't bother. I only do it with a viscose jersey because viscose jersey is a bit stretchier and will pull out. And do you think is there no need then? I don't think so with a cotton jersey because it's not that heavy. See, the whole point is that if it's too heavy, it's going to be pulling down. But cotton jersey is very stable. Viscose jersey will drape and the weight of it will pull it out and it'll go out of shape. So, like on a wrap dress, definitely you need to stabilise things. But on like this, I won't be bothered. I don't know if it says it or not. Just say stabilise. It's terrible. I barely look at the instructions. It's not in the list of things to do with it. So.
Okay.
We'll say no. Insert my neckband. So you're basically putting it on the outside. So on the back line, and because I had chalk on it there from when I drew it out, I know that's going to be on it. So we're actually putting this on the outside of it, which seems weird, but it gets turned that way, so you get a nice seam. So we already have our pins attached in, so you're basically just reattaching your pins. So I put in the front first. Then I'm finding, put in the back first. Yeah. I should have marked it. Sorry, I missed a notch. So if you miss a notch, I'm trying to find the front seam. I'm putting the two shoulder seams together and finding the front there. So I'm finding the middle of the front. Make sure you don't twist this. There's my notch for the front. Put the pin in there. This is called quartering. Sounds like something dangerous or something, like something from medieval. Getting chopped up. So we're fine then. We've got notches as you go along on your neckline. Can you see those? These little notches. So the first notch from the back goes to your shoulder. Open out your seam, or if you use the overlocker, put your seam to the back. You don't end up with like a big lump on your shoulder. What you want to do is, so you've got 3 layers of fabric here. What you need to do is make sure those 3 layers of fabric are lined up along the top. Take my pin out and put it in there. So I'm going around to the next bit. And you just do that as you're going along. So there's my next notch. My little notch there. So I'm lining that next notch up with my shoulder. Now I took about 1 inch off this neckband because I feel like it was too small or too big. I just wanted it to sit flatter. We may have a ta-da moment in about 30 minutes.
And how, the way you shortened the band, how does that affect your notches then?
It will affect them a little bit, but because I only actually took it off by, it's about 1/4 of an inch I took off the, or what should I take off? Yeah, overall I only took a tiny bit off each end. It doesn't make that much of a difference. It's just pulling it in a little bit. Really what you could do is go down 1 size. So you do your notches for the next size down. So your neckband would be 1 size down. That'd be the proper way to do it.
Yeah.
So to go down 1 neckband size. Good question.
I'm learning.
Yay! Okay, go back down to here. So when you have those 4 pins put in, what you need to do is find the ease with them. So can you see the way this part is looser than the bottom? So you pull it, you grab the center bit there, and it should mark there, and you pull that. So you're going to pin that one. And as you sew them, you'll be pulling, so you pull it, and then pin. With the next one, pull it. And then this will make the neckband pull everything in. We hope. Because it didn't do that on the first one, that's why I'm making it a bit smaller. So you can see that it's going to make it pull it in. So my neckband, your neckband will always be slightly smaller. I find with sew over tops that they're not. Is this clear? Can everybody see this okay? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to see.
Yes.
So, there's just so many stripes, and then the stripes on my top.
So the seam on the neckband, Anne-Marie, are you lining it up with the shoulder, one of the shoulders, is it?
So the back seam on the neckband goes onto the back, centre back. And then,
centre back, okay.
Yeah. So and then I'm lining the edges of the neckband up with the edges of the top.
Okay,
Okay, so I'm just going to go over and sew that now. Just there. Can you see the way that fabric is? There's a lot of fabric there. But if I pull it, it goes flat.
Okay.
There's fabric and then you pull it so it goes flat. So you see the little bunch there? See the way there's a piece that's bigger, and that's where I'm just pulling slightly. You can probably see it better there. See that? And then I just slightly pull it, and then they're both flat together. The sew over it, what's the name of that? The Audrey top. Anybody you made that one, Geraldine, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah, that neckline's a bit of a nightmare, isn't it?
Oh, that really nearly put me off jerseys for life.
And you know what? I have it with the tie, and the tie one always sits perfect, but the other one I have to put in the wash, the flat one. So I don't really wear it that often, or I have to iron it because I'm not an ironing person.
And it's a lovely top. It's a pity. The neckline is.
Here's the neck.
Oh, that looks lovely.
It looks a bit better than this one, doesn't it?
Oh,
that was just that small bit taken out. I look like a negative version now. So, that's the neckline done. Now, you can do a top stitch here. Actually, I'll switch to this camera.
Yeah.
You can do top stitching. I don't like the look of it. I've just figured out that on cotton jerseys, when it doesn't affect how you wear it. And if it goes wobbly, it looks absolutely terrible. So I don't bother. Some tops need it to hold it down. Like that Audrey one really needs it. But other ones, I'm just not bothered to do it. So let's switch back. That's where a twin needle comes in. So the shoulders didn't turn out too bad. Look at how they met together. Not too bad. A little bit off. So the next step then, that's her sleeve. This is a different type of sleeve.
And would you press that, Anne-Marie? Would you be pressing that now, if obviously...
Do you know what?
Would you be pressing those seams or don't bother?
Not for jersey, because, to be honest, like, you don't iron jersey tops. So, like, if I just hold it flat like that, it's fine. Like, definitely with a woven. And this one I just did it to the back, so I'm going to move my seam to the back. No, I wouldn't be bothered, to be honest. But you know, I am a cheater. I do the lazy option. So doing it quickly. And like just holding it like that, you can see if I just go like this and flatten it out, that's fine. It's flat enough. Whereas if it's a shirt, if I was making a cotton shirt or a linen shirt, I press every single thing as you go along to get it just right. But not with jersey, because there's a bit of leeway in it, you know. Okay, so you take your sleeve and there's a wide bit. See, there's a skinny bit and a short bit there. So you just literally place this on top. Now, if I remember to put my notches in, there should be a notch here. No, I didn't. So that's why you remember to put your notches in. So the halfway point is on the shoulder there. We pin this. So you pin there. Then pin at the end. Imagine trying to match all of these if you decided that you wanted the stripes to go in one direction. Oh my God. Now the trick to getting jersey not to curl is to put about a million pins in, or a million clips. So that's done there. So you've got right sides together here. So you're going to sew that one there, and then I'm going to put the other one on the other side. So I'm just going to sew. Okay, so at this stage, you've basically got a top that looks like this. You see that?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna have a top in a few minutes. You turn it right sides together so it's inside out. And this is where the pattern matching with your stripes that you so tediously did at the start makes everything really, really easy. So this is where you have to pin like mad. Now, everybody here who isn't going to do this, who isn't going to do pattern matching with stripes, is just like, oh Jesus, I'm not going near stripes ever. So you match them up from the underarm down, and I'm going to pin. And pin each one. It feels lovely when you do it. And you put it on and they're all perfect. There's one I did during the summer and it was the Audrey top with the raglan. And I made sure that raglan was perfect. There's a picture of it on my Instagram. I was kind of proud of it. But that was big chunky stripes, so it was easier to match. How can you see that? Moving that one over.
Can I ask you, Emery,
Yeah.
Does this pattern have to be used for jersey, or could you use like other material instead?
No, it's a jersey pattern because it has negative E's on it.
Okay.
Anything with a stretch you can. If it doesn't have enough stretch, you need to go up a size.
Right.
A viscose jersey, tencel jersey, cotton jersey, any of those kind of ones. But it is a jersey pattern.
Okay.
So it would have to be seriously adapted. Otherwise, you wouldn't get it over your head, basically. You'd need to start putting zips and everything in. Then it's a different pattern altogether.
Yeah.
It's a lovely shape. Okay, so we've got a sleeve done. And then I'm going down underneath the arm here. So this is where I would match under the arm first. So I'll lay that out and show you. I'll put it this way. Let me see it better. Yeah. So I've pinned all the way along here, and I'm getting to the underneath the arm and the side. So I'm going to pin and get the under the arm. This is why I'm not using notches. Remember I talked about not using the notches if you're going to use stripes, because the stripes will be your match. Now, once you have that one done under the arm, you can do it under there. curling up like mad.
When you start sewing it, Ray, though, can it shift a bit on you?
It can, so you have to kind of keep an eye on it. And you know what? This is where I like with the overlocker, because the foot on the overlocker is huge and it kind of really clamps it down. And when you're doing one of these on the overlocker, it's easier to do. And to be honest, I usually normally only pin like every third one. But these are tiny little stripes. And there's, if you have even smaller stripes again. Yeah. So I'm just going to pull it along a little bit. Because it's jersey, there's a bit of give in it. Stripes and plaids. I see people making like plaid shirts, and I think, have you got like some sort of punishment issue with yourself? Nightmare. Absolute nightmare to do something like that. I made a shirt for my brother for Christmas and I did not use a stripe. Plain fabric. I made him a mask and I gave him the mask first because we were doing Chris Kindle and he was like, oh thanks, it's a mask. And then I gave him the shirt to match and he was like, oh my god, you made me a shirt.
Like the whiny one you showed us.
Yeah. I think I was halfway through it. I had a bit made, didn't I?
There's a good lot of it made when we saw it. It was lovely.
I think I was showing you how the yolks work, turning them inside out.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, that feels like forever ago. Doesn't it?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to going to put less of the seam allowance here just because my arms aren't that skinny. And I want to make sure that it fits. Like there is a good amount of room here, but I don't like the arms being too restrictive. So you can easily just adjust as you go, and I can always make it smaller if I want. This is coming up to where I don't have them pinned. So if you don't have them pinned, or the pins say fall out along the way, so I'm going to open out the bottom one, and I'm going to take the top one and uncurl it, and then match them there and hold them. And so if your pins fell out at any stage, and don't panic. Just uncurl, hold the bottom one flat, uncurl the top, and then match it there. This is what I do on the overlocker. I don't pin them. So if you go over a pin on the overlocker, your overlocker has to go get fixed. Not too bad of a job there because we matched it properly earlier on. So I'm going to open it out and do the ta-da. Okay, turn it inside out. I'll run behind the camera and turn it and try it on. The blinds are open. I'll probably give my neighbours a shock. Now the top. Better. Ta-da!
Oh, very nice.
Oh, that's lovely. So that's the 14, Amory?
That's a 14, yeah.
Oh, that's perfect, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, that's much better fit. And look at the neckline.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's
that
gorgeous.
Neckline's much better. I have a top underneath. You can just see it there. So that neckline's much better, isn't it?
So how much did you take off the neckline again?
I think it was like a half an inch. So literally go down one size would be enough. Because on the neckband, can you see there? That's each one there was a quarter of an inch, so I cut one of those off.
Okay.
And I actually didn't change my notches. So if you're gonna do, what are you doing, a 10?
I was gonna do a 12, but now I think I need to measure again and see. I might do
like
a 10.
this is a 14, and I'm where's my tape? I measured myself again. Oh God, I don't know where my tape's gone now. Oh, here it is on the floor. So, and actually the length is a bit better.
Yeah.
Move this back. I took an inch off the length. See, it has a dippy hem. When you're doing your hem, you only turn it under a tiny little bit and make sure your zigzag or your double stitch goes over each side of the seam and it'll really hold it straight or hold it flat. That's where pressing actually comes in. I'll just measure myself again. I'm usually around a 40. Oh, I'm 41 today. We all change, don't we? But I'm always 38 at the top. 38 at the top there. So like, this is meant to measure full bust 38 and a half. You can see that's much better fit. It actually feels more comfortable too.
Yeah.
I'm delighted with that now.
Yeah.
So the idea.
Lovely dress.
What do you think?
It's
really nice.
It's a lovely dress, wouldn't it?
Actually would be lovely as a dress. Like I have my jeans on here. Pull up the jeans. High waist jeans.
The colour, that's gorgeous colour as well.
What was that?